Thank you for all the questions that we received during the webinar. We received quite a few, actually, so let me get started. The first question we received is, can an Institutional Development Award, IDEA, Clinical and Translational Research CTR awardee be a collaborator of a CTSA hub? Yes. Institutions funded by CTSA and IDEA CTRs are strongly encouraged to collaborate. The second question is, can an IDEA CTR awardee be a partner of a CTSA hub? No. Per NIGMS funding opportunity announcement detailed in PAR-20-175, partners are expected to be fully integrated into the proposed activities of either the CTSA consortium or IDEA CTR network to attain the respective strategic goals and research priorities. As such, a collaborative relationship is preferred between a CTSA and an IDEA CTR. Okay, next question. For applicants that recently submitted an application to PAR 18940, can an application be submitted to the new opportunity, PAR 21-293? So that's the old CTSA FOA and the new CTSA FOA. So you may not submit an application to the new FOA prior to receiving the summary statement for an application under review for the old CTSA FOA. We do direct you to the NIH notice, NOT-OD 18-197, which is an NIH application submission resubmission policy, which specifically states that any application overlapping other public health service applications that are funded pending initial peer review, which means pending summary statement release, or pending appeal of an earlier review will not be accepted. This includes derivative or multiple applications that propose to develop a single product, process, or service that, with non-substantive modifications, can be applied to a variety of purposes. Okay, next question. The new FOA directed the old FOA directed applicants to describe their capacity to collect data, to evaluate the impact of the CTSA program mission, and to include a plan and timeline for implementation of the CTSA program common metrics, including the collection of common metrics data and submission of data to the CTSA Program Coordination Center, which is the Center for Leading Innovation and Collaboration, or CLIC. There is no mention of the Common Metrics Initiative in the new FOA. Will this reporting structure carry on in the next grant? With the current CLIC grant ending in the summer of 2022, the support of Common Metrics Initiative will also sunset. We direct you to new CTSA collaborative activities related to metrics that would be supported through the funding opportunity announcement for CTSA consortium-wide centers, resources for rapid demonstration and dissemination. Topic areas that would be supported with this opportunity for applications submitted for the June 21st, 2021 receipt date were health informatics and demonstrating research impact, leveraging innovative approaches to assess, quantify, and communicate research impact for large networks. And this is described in the notice NOT-TR 21-025. We also communicated this during our last CTSA program webinar and through a communication to the CTSA program consortium members. We also note that applicants for the new FOA are expected to have a strong continuous quality improvement program, which is an ongoing cycle of collecting data and using it to make decisions to gradually improve program processes. And this is described in the Strategic Management Element module of the UM1. Along these notes, we also received a question about what kinds of continuous quality improvement processes may be used in the application. So there's a number of different methods that we've seen be employed in previous applications, including Lean methods, Six Sigma, Kaizen method, et cetera, and any of these methods would be fine. We really leave it upon the hub to justify the use of whatever evaluation method they want to employ. And this is to provide flexibility and allow hubs to use the same models that they're already using in their hubs. Okay, next question. For Element E, Clinical and Translational Science Research Program, what is the duration of each study or project? Is there a minimum and a maximum? So we refer you to the text in the FOA, which states the suggested period of a project in Element E is 2 to 3 years. The maximum length of any project may be up to 7 years, the same length of the UM1. Okay, a question from Section 4, the application and submission information, other attachments, clinical trial experience. The table does not include columns for all items included in the instruction text below it. For example, the PMID and the impact statement. Please clarify. The suggested table format likely does not have sufficient room to include a column for overall impact statement and reference to the PMID. Thus, applicants are encouraged to add this information below the table. Another question about other attachments, clinical trial experience. Do we need to include all reportable studies at the CTSA hub and partner institutions, or only those in the CTSA was involved in? The answer is, this information is used to demonstrate the clinical trial experience of the institutions involved in the UM1 application and likely to participate in clinical trials. Given the page limit, applicants are encouraged to prioritize trials that the applicant institution was engaged with and trials that show a breadth of expertise. Okay, a couple of questions about the companion applications. Do UM1 applicants have to apply for all companion FOAs simultaneously, or can companion applications be submitted in the future? So companion applications may be submitted at the same time as the UM1 application or after the UM1 is awarded and the UM1 grant remains active. The next question, how should companion applications be described in the UM1 if they are not submitted simultaneously with the UM1 application? The UM1 application should indicate that there are planned applications in the future and describe the intent or future plans to coordinate and integrate these activities with the UM1. The companion funding opportunity announcements also include a coordination and interaction plan that will provide the current up-to-date plans. And there's relevant text in the companion FOAs that include a companion and interaction plan for the K-12, the T32s and R25, and similar language within the RC2. Okay, next question. With a multiple PI application model, are 3 to 6 months effort preferred per PI? So we refer to the relevant text in the current FOA. All PD PIs must commit at least 2 months and preferably 3 to 6 months effort to the award. If the PD PIs do not commit at least 2 months effort each, the application will be considered non-responsive and will not be reviewed. Okay, this one was covered in the TA webinar, but it's a good one. Can applicants include specific aims for each element? No. There is a single specific aim, one page, and it's separate from the research strategy elements. And we refer you to the page limits described in the FOA. Okay, can an individual modules and elements have more than one leader? Any element or module may have co-leaders. That means 2 leaders. An individual may have more than one leader role. Okay, next question. According to the FOA, letters of support for individual elements must be included in the appropriate element of the application. However, given the new structure of the UM1, there will only be one place to upload letters of support, correct? If that is the case, should we just reference the corresponding element in the letter itself? The answer is yes. There will be only one place to upload letters of support for the UM1 application. And we do suggest that you reference the corresponding element if appropriate. Okay, next question. Under the cover letter attachment, it states each site should submit an identical listing. What is the site in the sentence referring to? The site is the application submitted to a companion FOA to make the collaborative set of applications. Each application that is part of the collaborative set should submit an identical listing. Okay, so now we're going to go back and see if anything else has been submitted to the FOA mailbox. And let's see. Okay, here's a question. With the stipulation of 4 to 8 pilot awards per year, are these treated as slots? Some projects may cross fiscal years, meaning that there is a potential for more than 8 total unique projects being conducted in any one fiscal year. The answer is no. I want to just, sorry.
We prefer not to use the word slots in reference to pilot awards. The reference to slots is different for T's and K's, and that can lead to more confusion. The intent behind the FOA is not to have any more than 8 pilot awards being run at one time.
Okay. Thanks, Stacia. Okay, another question. I understand each section can only have 2 co-leaders at most, but can the entire grant have 3 multiple PIs over the entire project? So the answer is yes, the entire UM1 can have multiple PIs. This is very distinct. The multiple PI situation is for the whole application. The leaders are for the elements or modules. So let that be distinct. Yes, and we remind you that there's no limit on the number of multiple PIs, but each PI must commit at least 2 calendar months and effort each, and preferably 3 to 6 months. Okay. Another question. What is envisioned with regard to the 7-year funding for the UM1 and the K-12 and other supplement optional components? If there is a 7-year UM1, will the other components still be eligible to reapply in years 6 and 7 of the UM1? Yes. As long as there is an active UM1, you can apply for any of the companion funding opportunity announcements. Okay. Another question. It was said that the budget calculation should be sent separately by email to get approval to move forward, or should it be included in the letter of intent, or both? We request that you look at the NCATS website that I referred to in the TA webinar for more information. However, you should send an email through your business official to the CTSA FOA mailbox so that we can review that calculation and send you back a response so that you can put it into your R&R budget in the application. Okay. Yes. Okay. Can PI serve as module leaders? And the answer to this is yes. Another question. Is there any guidance for the budget for this module in element D? Which module in D? If you're asking about different budgets of the modules in particular elements, we only provided budget guidance for the CTS projects and the CTS program, as well as the individual pilots. But all the other modules and elements, we do not provide any budget guidance. This is really up to the hubs to, invest in where they feel their strengths are, or they need investment in particular spaces. The question about are pilot projects restricted to translational science and not translational research? Yes. We do have a question and answer on our website that directs you to a number of different resources about what translational science is, and the FOA does describe a few examples of what a translational science project would be considered. Another question that, again, there's a question about only specific aims, one specific aim in the whole application. That is correct. I have looked at a couple of UM1 applications that are in-house from other ICs. They have different ways of breaking out their specific aims and directing them to the individual elements. That could be one strategy you want to employ. So if you have 4 elements, you can have 4 aims, and then each aim would be directed, be responsive to, each element would be responsive to an aim. It's really up to you. Okay, another question. Is each UM1 expected to have an organizing theme? Not sure how to answer that one. I don't know if Mike's on the line.
Sorry, I'm here. It is not an expectation on our part. I think it is up to the individual institution putting in the application in terms of how it relates to their overall application, and let them, we would prefer to have you make the call. I think there can be pros and cons, but that will depend on your individual situation as to how you feel that will play out best.
Thanks, Mike. Another question, which is not about this FOA, will the Collaborative Innovation Awards continue for CTSA hubs? So if anyone watched the NCATS Council last week, you will know that Dr. Soju Tang presented the concept for the CTSA Collaborative Innovation Awards, and that was approved by NCATS Council. It was cleared. Okay, another question. Is there a limit on companion awards, T, RC2, K, that a hub can hold in any given year or period? So for any UM1 award, you will only get one T32 pre-doc, one T32 post-doc, one K12, one R25, and up to two RC2s at any one time. Okay. Another question. Did you say that each person can have only one module leadership role, but can be a module leader and member of the hub liaison team? That's really up to you. You can have more than one role, but for a leader, you can only have up to two. Okay. Another question. Module C states there should be plans to ensure training and current good clinical practice. If a hub has an existing university policy mandating GCP training with an identified set of acceptable programs, is there an expectation that the hub maintain additional records or GCP training? So I would have to review the GCP policy notice, but I think that's up to the institution to keep those records. Is that right, Stacia?
It is. It would be up to the institution to keep those records, and they should clarify that they will be following the GCP of their institution and what that is in the application.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, I already answered that one. Okay. And let's see. If we have anything else. Okay, this one is, it is not expected that every UM1 hub will have the expertise or capability to address all aspects of clinical and translational science. If so, what common CTSA activities should be considered optional? Mike, do you want to take that one?
I'm trying to actually understand the intent of that question. I
think they should be they should look at the RC2 FOA possibly, because the RC2 mechanism replaces the optional modules of the existing CTSA hub awards.
Yeah, I agree. I also think there isn't a de novo expectation that every hub will be able to address all aspects of CTS science. So I don't think we have really set a minimum category. It's really up to the individual institution to really highlight what elements within the CTS science spectrum they wish to emphasize and focus on.
Okay, thank you. Okay, another question is, which is a really good one, is NCATS tracking the partners that have already been associated with a CTSA? Are the partners already locked in if currently part of the U54 application, the old FOA, so that other CTSAs cannot have first come, first serve? So We are tracking the partners associated with the CTSA hubs because that factors into the budget calculation of the old FOA and the new FOA. We note that one organization cannot serve as a partner on more than one CTSA hub, but organizations can serve as collaborators with multiple CTSA hubs. What I would do if you are exploring additional partners and or collaborators, please do send that in to NCATS to verify your budget calculation, and we're more than happy to let you know or alert you if a partner has already been used to assess a budget funding tier or calculation. This happens with some frequency, and we're happy to consult on that prior as well, without having to submit a funding tier calculation to the NCATS FOA mailbox as well. Okay, here's a question. If your hub is in a carryover of funds year, does this count as their 16 months funding? So the answer is the 16 months is based on the current project period end date for the UL1 CTSA. Okay. And I'm looking in the mailbox to see if we have additional questions. I don't know, Stacia, you want to expand upon that last answer at all?
Yeah, I just would clarify that there's no such thing as a carryover period. Your grant is either in an extension or a cost extension, and so the 16 months is based on the project period end date.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Other questions? Anything that I missed, guys, from the FOA mailbox? Here's another question. For other attachments, Table 5, clinical trial experience, it says, please provide guidance on the request to report results and publications for studies that began in the 6 months prior to the submission. Is it atypical for most studies to achieve primary endpoint results and published results within 6 months or less of activation? I think what I would refer to is what I've already stated in the TA webinar, that you should definitely indicate what the timeline is, and the answer to the specific question is not necessarily. I would indicate and report on what you have. Okay, let's see. Next. Okay, and the other comment is to report on the active projects, not the completed projects. Okay, here's another question. With the new FOA, what is important in terms of how you would like us to be thinking differently about the grant considerations and the future, especially given the 7-year period? Mike, did you want to answer that one?
So I think it's important to emphasize that we are not asking you to think differently. We would like to hear from you in your application as to how you are thinking differently about the future of clinical and translational science and how you anticipate that will play out through your CTSA award.
Yeah, another comment from the team, it's important to think about how the CTSA can be structured in order to address innovative or public health needs over the 7-year period. Okay. Any other questions coming in? I'll just remind you that we will be developing additional questions and answers based on what we've received to date, and we will be posting it on our website that's listed here on this slide. And that applicants should be looking at the notices and the FOA. That's the first line of applicant 101, but our application information is simply to help answer questions that many other people might also have as well. We also refer you to the technical assistance webinar that will be taking place in October for the other companion FOAs and the required K-12 FOA, the pre-doc, post-doc T32, the R25, and the RC2. We'll be answering specific questions about those FOAs at the end of October. Okay. The questions are definitely slowing down. Okay. I just want to revisit the one question that came in for the other attachment table 5 clinical trial experience. The question was, please provide guidance on the request to report results and publications for studies that began in the 6 months prior to the submission. Is it atypical for most studies to have achieved primary endpoint results and published results within 6 months or less of activation? And we want to just clarify, you should report on completed and active clinical trials and note the timeline that you are providing that information. Okay. Maybe we'll leave it open for another couple minutes, noting that we will receive any and all questions through the CTSA FOA questions mailbox, and we'll be providing answers directly back to people, but also posting them on our website, pictured here on the slide. Okay. Seeing that the questions have pretty much dried up, I don't want to keep everyone waiting for more questions to come in. Like I said, we will be receiving questions through the FOA mailbox and turning them around, hopefully very quickly. So please submit your questions there, and stay tuned for the next technical assistance webinar. As you see there, it will take place Tuesday, October 26th from 12 to 2 Eastern Standard Time, and we expect that notice that will include the registration to be released within the next couple of days. And with that, do I have any closing remarks from my teammates here? Hearing none. Thank you all for your attention, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.